Hello, everyone. Welcome to Seasonal Cleansing. Today, we're going to do an introduction so that you can understand why it is so important to detoxify and eliminate effectively in a holistic seasonal cleansing program. First, a little bit about me and why I care so much about cleansing and detoxification. My name is Dr. Michelle Gamble. I am an integrative wellness mentor. As a mentor, I focus on teaching people how to heal themselves. I love the fact that I am not a medical doctor, so I do not diagnose, treat, cure any kind of disease. What I focus on is teaching you how to activate and support the natural, innate healing potential that you have in order to revitalize yourself, to rebirth a new you where you are passionate and full of energy and full of vitality to be able to live your life to the greatest extent possible and to serve the ones that you love. I also focus on integrating those systems of the past, the ancient natural systems, such as colon hydrotherapy and meditation and nutrition and herbs and homeopathy, along with those things that are from today with science, learning about labs, learning about other types of options that we can pull together and create a proper healing program that is best suited towards the needs of the individual. The reason why I care so much about cleansing and detoxification is because I realize that in many ways, this is the first step that we can really promote overall healing. A lot of times it's not about what more we need to do so much as it is a matter of what do we need to stop doing. How can we bring relaxation and relief and rest to all the vital organs of our being in order to make space, make room for that innate healing power to be able to cure all forms of disease. What we're going to talk about first is what is a holistic cleanse? Many people have the understanding, what I view as a misperception, that a cleanse is simply physical. It is limited to looking at things like your colon, your liver, your kidney, your blood. And so people will always talk to you about, oh, I'm doing a colon cleanse, I'm doing a liver cleanse, I'm doing a kidney cleanse. And these cleanses are what I call a cleanse in a box, a commercial one-size-fits-all program where you get a little box with your little tinctures or a little powder, and that's what you do. There's also a concept that is just for a certain period of time, and there's a means to the end, and that's it. It's over and done with. I would like to present to you a different perspective. Our approach is that a cleanse is really mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. Indeed, what I say to people is that a physical cleanse is actually one of the easiest things to do. The more challenging work is really clearing out the mental gremlins, the emotional demons, the spiritual voids that create the underlying promoters of dis-ease in our total being. The other thing that we need to look at is that a cleanse needs to be customized. And that's why products have to vary, not just in terms of the quantity or the portions of each other of the products, but even more so, having the understanding that different people will have different cleansing needs and therefore need completely different products to support the cleansing process. The other thing that I share with people is that a cleanse is actually ongoing. We are cleansing in every single moment of the day, every single second. Different parts of our being are working diligently to clear away the toxicity in order to facilitate the proper functioning of our person. Last but not least, I emphasize to people that a cleanse is actually the beginning of the transformation. When you have completed this particular cleansing program, this is when the real work begins. This is when you have gotten the insight to create the plan, to move forward with the rest of your life. So now, why a holistic cleanse? I would like you to take a moment to write down perhaps some of the things that come to mind that have drawn you to this particular workshop. What is the handwriting on the wall? What are the little signs that you noticed in your life that are telling you it's time for a change? Sometimes there are mental, spiritual signs where you notice that there's certain belief systems that aren't serving you anymore, that keep looping, certain things that you've told yourself perhaps all of your life, that now you're coming to the realization that perhaps they are not true for you. They're not your story. And you recognize that these are things that you tell yourself that self-sabotage your best efforts to move forward. Perhaps you've noticed that there are certain emotional anchors, even trauma that you have lived through that seem to be the ghosts that haunt you, that keep coming up and prevent you from feeling alive and vibrant and happy and fulfilled. And perhaps you're noticing some physical signs where you're noticing that different things are not working the way they used to. You know, maybe you're not able to sleep the way you used to sleep. Or maybe you've noticed that every time you eat, you're experiencing discomfort or the bloating or pains or constipation. Maybe you're experiencing hormonal imbalances and fluctuations in the way you feel, your moods. Perhaps you're experiencing anxiety, depression, just that sense of overwhelm. And you know that the time has come to let go of these toxins that are preventing you from being the perfect being that you were created to be. We were all designed to live life with vitality, with love, with passion, with joy. We were created in the image of the divine to be the fulfillment of the infinite, not to be crippled by different states of dis-ease. So let's talk about toxicity. There are different types of toxicity, and toxicity is the degree to which a substance, and when I say substance, I'm going to be a little bit more general with this because substance really, it could be a mental, emotional, physical, or spiritual entity that causes harm. There are two different distinctions of toxicity. There are acute toxic elements, and then there are chronic toxic elements. Some acute toxic elements include certain organisms that we are exposed to, like perhaps you're exposed to a virus or a bacteria, and it knocks you out, but it's just for an acute moment of time, a short and intense moment in time. And then there's the chronic toxicity, toxicity that is ongoing. Sometimes we don't even realize it's happening in the background. It becomes almost like the white noise. It becomes our new baseline. We accept it as being part of our lives. Maybe that toxicity is the environment in your home. Maybe there's mold in your home. Maybe the toxicity are the different products that you put on your skin as part of your daily hygiene. Maybe the lotions, right, or the makeup. Maybe the chronic toxicity are the foods that you're eating that continuously trigger inflammation in your body. Maybe the toxicity are the people that you allow yourself to be surrounded by that may be negative, that do not have uplifting thoughts, that constantly drain your energy. Maybe the chronic toxicity is an event that occurred many years ago or many months ago in your life, where your relationship to that event is toxic and you've never been able to release the emotion that is attached to that. And so it becomes a chronic toxic exposure for you. Maybe your chronic toxicity is an exposure to certain yeast and bacteria that simply constantly lay underneath the surface. sabotaging your best efforts at being healthy. So there are acute toxic environments and chronic. When we look at the process of wellness, the first thing is to identify those different elements of toxicity. What are the toxins mirroring? Are they certain thoughts that keep looping? Are they certain junk foods that you keep consuming? Perhaps it is that ego where you think, I have a right to be angry. I have a right to do this. Perhaps it could be something as simple as the water. Many of us consume bottles and bottles of water from plastic bottles that have different types of BPAs as well as hormonal compounds that go in and disrupt our true natural hormonal systems. Perhaps the toxins that you need to identify are emotional toxins or denatured foods or certain foods that should be healthy to us, right? But you have a sensitivity because of the disruption in your gut. And so now you develop a food sensitivity where every time you eat what should be a healthy food, it becomes inflammatory to your system. And then last but not least, the 50 million chemicals that we are surrounded by that create those types of sabotage to our overall wellness. So now, the first thing I want to talk about is the difference between elimination and detoxification. Because many people go through cleansing programs that simply detoxify, where they break the toxin away from the site, but they never effectively eliminate the toxicity from the person. And there are different ways in which this plays out. So, on a mental level, we sometimes go to therapy and we talk about the things, the thoughts that we have, right? That we know are detrimental. And yet we keep looping in those thought patterns. We never release ourselves from the bondage of those thought patterns. We never release ourselves from the bondage of the emotional patterns. And that is when these things become trauma, when they are allowed to persist in our lives and we never neutralize and release the relationship and the connection that we have to those thoughts and emotions. Perhaps you may have a situation where you go through a cortical cleanse and you drink different potions and take different pills and you detoxify, right? You break the toxin from the liver or from the kidney or from the blood or from the lymph, wherever they were lodging. But they never get out of the system. A lot of times people do these different programs and the toxicity just recirculates back into the body. One of the key areas that I focus on is making sure that the colon is clear, making sure that we open up the pores in the skin so that we open up all the different channels of elimination, making sure that the urethra is clear so you can breathe things out. You know, it's not about just detoxifying. It is very key to make sure that you are eliminating effectively. And we eliminate through various distinct systems, through the kidneys, through the intestines, through the lungs. That's why we talk a lot about deep breathing exercises and how to optimally have a breathing practice that can effectively eliminate the toxicity from our entire being through our lungs. Also, the lymphatic system and the skin. We're constantly bombarded with toxicity. And that's why we need to constantly support these various elimination and detoxification organs so that cleansing and detoxification occurs not only in an intensive cleanse, such as the one we are talking about today, but they occur throughout our entire life with efficiency. The next thing is that we look at how does detoxification work? Because many people, again, think it's just about popping pills, but it is not. One of the key ways to detoxify some of our elimination organs and to support that process is by resting the organ, by allowing the organs to not have to work overtime. A key component of the cleanse is scaling back on the foods that we consume. And when I say foods, I'm not just talking about the literal foods of, potatoes and meats and whatever it is that we may be eating. I'm talking about the other things that we are feeding ourselves with, such as the thoughts, the emotions, scaling back on our consumption of media, scaling back on our consumption of conversations, scaling back on our consumption of different thoughts that we allow consistently loop in our person, scaling back on the emotions that we continue to allow to entrance us with certain heaviness, such as anxiety, frustration, depression, sadness, to release ourselves from that heaviness and to stimulate the different aspects of our being that help us to renew and to rejuvenate. By promoting elimination through the various organs, such as the intestines, the kidneys, the skin, and improving the circulation, we're able to improve overall wellness. Even when we talk about mental looping and emotional anchors, these things become entrapped within the physical organs of the body. That is why when we support these different physical organs, we're able to also facilitate the ease in which we can release these emotions and release these thoughts from our mental and emotional and spiritual spirits. Now, let's talk a little bit about who needs a cleanse. Well, I'm going to be bold in saying this. A cleanse can be done by anyone at any point in time. But when you're talking about doing a holistic cleanse, this is a very intentional process. And not everyone is ready for an intensive process. What I say to people is, if you are ready to not only make a change, but make a dramatic change, to have a phenomenal reset in your life, then a holistic cleanse is for you. Now, if you want just a little shift, you don't want to really rock the boat, you just want to tweak a little this, a little that, a cleanse in a box is a thing for you. And you can contact me, and I'll be more than happy to facilitate the process of connecting you with different sources of phenomenal cleanses in a box. So, a holistic cleanse is where you're willing to do a deep dive into really getting to the root and to excavate those demons, to neutralize those gremlins, to identify those spiritual voids, and to release those physical toxins, to have a revolution in your life, and to really birth the you that has been lying underneath the surface all of these years. And then I say that the cleanse, the holistic cleanse, is for people who are willing to challenge old beliefs and release themselves from the bondage of past habits and events. I had to come to realize that not everybody wants to release their past traumas. Some people, the reality is that we gain certain comfort of knowing that, people feel sorry for us and we get comforted and we don't have to do certain things because we always have that card, that playing card. In certain realms, you hear people talking about, oh, well, I have the cancer card or I have the blah, blah trauma card. But every time I raise that card, people know to go around me and tiptoe and to have hushed tones and to downgrade their level of expectation from you. So when you decide that you're going to challenge these beliefs and you're going to challenge your relationship to the past events that you have had a traumatic relationship with. That is some major cleansing, and that requires courage. And I support you wholly in that journey because I realize that it can be scary sometimes. And that is why we're here. To let you know that you are not alone, that you're not crazy, and that this is real. And that vision, that little ray of hope, that glimmer of light that you see is not a figment of your imagination. You have a birthright to be happy, to be blessed, to be healthy. That is what the desire of the Creator was in bringing you into this world. And last but not least, the cleanse is when you are ready to embrace change and to grow out of your old shoes and your old clothes and to expand and welcome a new life in a new world. Now, what symptoms are you experiencing? Sometimes the symptoms are the handwriting on the wall that let us know that yes, I am the one who's ready for this cleanse. Is when you've gotten to the point of being sick and tired of being sick and tired. You're experiencing the fatigue and you know what, I'm done with this. You're experiencing sluggish elimination. As Americans, we're chronically constipated. And when I say chronically constipated, what I'm referring to is your number of eliminations should be equal in number of times that you eat in the day. So if you eat 3 healthy, hefty meals in a day, you should be having 3 hefty eliminations in a day, right? Maybe it's the irritated skin, where you notice that your skin is getting inflamed or red or swelling up after you eat certain things or if you touch certain things. You're noticing that you're having certain allergies or sensitivities. You notice that you have a chronic low-grade infection that keeps on coming back over and over and over again. You notice that maybe perhaps there are puppy eyes or bags in your eyes. There's bloating, you have menstrual issues, and mental confusion or fogginess. All of these things can be experienced by people who know that the time has come. And so all of these things are not just about physical manifestations of disease. They are about all the things that come into your being because you're not just a physical being, right? You have a mental component, an emotional component, a spiritual component. And all of these different parts of your being integrate and create the manifestation of these symptoms. They create stress to the system. Or when you put them into coherence, when you put them in alignment, they're able to heal your overall being. So take a moment and ask yourself, how many of these symptoms are you experiencing on a regular basis? And did you ever consider that they were the handwriting on the wall, giving you a signal that it is time for a cleanse? So we can talk about the toxicity of foods. Foods are associated with overall dietary intake, and they're associated with various chronic diseases, such as arthritis, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, obesity, osteoporosis, etc. And then we can also talk about how we are very far removed from really understanding what true food is. And again, not just food in terms of what we put in our mouths, but also food in terms of what we choose to consume with our minds, what we choose to consume with our hearts, with our spirits. We're taking in all of these different things that are not nourishing us, that are not helping us to heal. So we're very far removed from really understanding and having appreciation or even knowing what real food is. How many of us have an intimate relationship with food, the fruit of the spirit, called love and peace and patience and temperance and joy? But we're very well acquainted with anger and frustration and depression and anxiety and sadness, right? How many of us are acquainted with the vibrancy of a beautiful sound, a beautiful fruit, and have that appreciation of realizing that that fruit is nature's candy? But we're very well acquainted with, if we know about it, the chicken McNuggets, the French fries. How many of us have an awareness of the thoughts that say, I am a powerful God, a goddess, that I can create anything in the world? But we're very familiar with, I'm not good enough. I'm too this or too little that. We can talk about the top offenders, such as the chemicals in our world, the chemicals in our cleaning products, chemicals in our clothes, chemicals in our foods, even chemicals in our fruits and vegetables that are grown with pesticides and poisons. And the reality is that it's about the accumulation of these toxins. It's no one thing that is sabotaging our health and well-being. It is the accumulation of the toxicity coming from our external world, as well as the toxins that are building up internally as a byproduct of our maldigestion. Also, the internal toxicity coming from our thought patterns, from our emotional anchoring, from our disconnection from our spiritual source. And so, in a cleanse, we learn to clear out that toxicity and to be able to once again refine our palate, to once again know the joy of eating live foods, to tasting the delicious nectars of nature, to once again become entranced with the fruit of the Spirit, to know to the core of our being what it feels like to be at peace and to be joyous and to be patient and to be temperate and to be loving. So where do we do a cleanse? Sometimes you think that in order to do a cleanse, you have to go to some retreat area, to the Himalayan mountains. And yes, if you have the money and you have the time and you have the blessings, yeah. But don't feel that if you don't have access to those things, it compromises your ability to do a holistic cleanse. A cleanse and the sanctuary is wherever you create a safe place that will engender spiritual, emotional, mental, physical rest and relaxation. And you can have a tent, and that can be your sanctuary. Or you can have a sprawling mansion, and it can be your hell. So I want you to think about how can you make wherever you are your sanctuary, your spiritual, mental, emotional, physical temple that elevates you and supports that feeling of safety and nurturance. And when is the time for a cleanse? Well, the reality is that you don't need a special reason to do a cleanse, but most of us get to that point where we feel that we do. And, it may be where you're transitioning in your job or your career, or you realize that you're just stagnated wherever you are in your current employment or in your business. And you know that you need to break out from this level, from this ceiling that you've reached, right? Or it may be a relationship that you want to bring to a new and higher level. Or perhaps you're looking at entering into a new relationship, or perhaps you're looking at leaving a relationship. It may be your health status. There's a chronic illness in your life, or maybe an acute illness that you know is not who you are, and you want a different reality. Any type of situation where you have within you a knowing that this is a time where you need a change. The optimal times to do a cleanse in harmony with the cycles of nature are during what we call the equinoxes and the solstices. During the solstice, and in particular, we're going to be doing our root cleanse of Sankofa during the summer solstice. This is a moment when the earth stands still. And so for just that moment in time, you're able to also be released from the burden of the tug of the gravitational pull of the world as it's turning on its axis, because the earth literally stands still. And that is a special moment, a wonderfully blessed window of time that you are able to take advantage of and to bring your health to the next level. So now what are people saying about plants? Well, they're saying that detoxification is not a new discovery. In fact, this is for many, many, many centuries. Cultures around the world have practiced detoxification as part of religious rituals and have received the wonderful rewards of various health benefits, emotional release, mental revitalization, and physical miraculous recoveries. And there are many people that say that through a cleansing and detoxification program, they've experienced clear skin, weight loss, increased immunity, lessened cravings, food intolerance relief, improved clarity, sense of well-being, elimination of waste, and more energy. Sounds too good to be true, right? That's that pure all feeling. You're probably thinking, oh, Michelle, that's a bunch of hooey. But keep in mind that when you allow your person to release those things that have been sabotaging your overall health and well-being, that is when you're able to uncover, discover the true you that lies deeply buried underneath the surface. So now that you have a better idea of why I love cleansing and detoxification, and I hope that you too have fallen in love with the concept of cleansing and detoxification, and you know a little bit more about what it is. Now we're going to talk a little bit about exactly how to do a cleanse and detoxification.